Thank you so much, Chancellor Lindsay Berman, to Marty Kotis, representing the Board of Governors, to Michael Tinman, representing the Board of Trustees, to Provost David English, the student body president, Tariq Ramos, so inspiring, to the deans, faculty, administrators, and staff of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Thank you so much for welcoming me to this incredible day in this fantastic institution. Thank you. A special thank you to my dear friend and colleague of so many years, Dean Michael Kelly, for reaching out to me and offering me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Michael. And most of all, I want to acknowledge you. Hard work and passion and excellence has led you to this great moment in your lives. I can see the world is on its way to being a better, more compassionate, and imagine a future with you. I look at you, and what I see is hope. So congratulations to the 2017 graduating class of the University of North Carolina and the School of the Arts. You know, today's a pretty big moment for me too, to be asked to give a commencement speech, to be given this honor. And it's triggered an interesting process of self-reflection. And looking at all of you, I can't help but stop and think about the day I sat in that chair and with a cap and gown and pondered my own future. And to be honest, when I was asked to do this speech today, I first wondered, what do I have to offer you all? I still see myself as one of you as a student. I'm still searching, still learning. And I think my journey's just begun. So I was a bit worried, actually, because I thought what might be expected of me today is to illustrate clearly how I got here, but to show you some sort of roadmap. But truthfully, I have to say, I'm not really sure how I got here. Things just evolved from one thing to the next. I've always been so focused on projects, one project after another, that the long-range plan was often difficult to see. What I was plotting for myself when I started out is not at all how things turned out. My personal journey to where I am today has been anything but well-mapped or carefully executed. Frankly, it's a bit of a messy story and a blur of 100 projects, some successes and some failures, and with many changes of direction. But I've made my way, and I've been blessed with a rich career, and somehow all those experiences mixed with the inevitable passage of time has landed me here today speaking to you. So what do you learn after a long career in the arts is that you're only as good as your last project. So it's my great good fortune that my last one turned out to be a great one. But there was a long road here, so let me share some of the twists and the turns in case my lessons ring a bell for you and provide you for some food for thought. There is an overarching theme to my journey, and before I share the details, let's just talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about a career in the arts. And those two words are so filled with a natural tension that the choice to pursue a career in the arts has been for me a lifelong journey in seeking the balance between my instinct to be creative and the necessity for survival. And it might be worth starting right here because all else really connects to it. Since my early childhood, really all I wanted to be was an artist, any kind of artist. I wanted to dance, like Fred Astaire, and I wanted to paint like Van Gogh or sing like, anybody who could sing. Sound familiar? My love of the arts is what drove me right to the point you're at today. But a career in the arts, now that has turned out to be a very different thing than I imagined in the beginning. A career suggests you have a plan, a career path, something that starts here and ends there predictably in a profession where you're productive and well paid and respected. But to achieve that level of success in the arts is inherently more complicated and less predictable than other career roads. But it's also exciting and challenging, and I'm here today to tell you it's entirely possible and extremely worth it. So be brave and be confident because You all have already shown you are bright, disciplined, and creative people. You are blessed with an inventive spirit, which gives you just the right skill set to make it. But as in every good story, there is a villain. You will face that one obstacle we as humans all share, and that is, of course, fear. Fear is a normal and instinctual reaction to starting anything new. But learning to manage fear has been my biggest challenge for me personally. And so let me share with you how I've learned to grapple with it. So now, after learning and being held back actually by fear many times, when fear has kept me from stepping onto the bigger stage or stopping me from trying something new, I've learned to turn and face it. I treat fear as my enemy. I visualize it standing in my way. And often I imagine myself actually as a basketball player, works for me, trying to get to the net, all those people waving their hands, trying to grab the ball. And I see that's fear standing between me and sinking that basket. So spin, turn, dribble, take it head on, whatever strategy works best for you. Just sink the basket. Everyone who works with me now is surely sick of my basketball analogy, but it works for me. You'll find your own. And I don't want to make light of fear because of all the things you face along the way, people getting in your way or lack of money or just bad luck, the toughest one is going to be fear. That fear that comes up from deep inside you, that fear of failing, can be formidable. This quote from J.K. Rowling is just so brilliant, I have to share it with you. I go to it often. It's impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might not as well have lived at all, in which case you failed by default. So look, clearly you have chops already because you made it here today. You know in your heart that creative work is your unique calling, and so you've chosen to get your education in it, and now you're willing to dare everything in front of you. So hold on to what you believe, despite the known sure bets in many other lines of work, despite any fears that crop up along the way. If you pursue what you love and love what you do, you will be successful. So a career in the arts is just more complicated than others. So you need to be flexible and keep an open mind and roll with the punches and think on your feet. It can definitely be challenging, but so what? Fear, wad it up, take that 3-point shot, right at that trash can. Right, Michael? So this is something Michael and I did in meetings all the time. So now let's assume we filed fear in its proper place and talk a little bit more about the idea of a career in the arts. As an artist, to play or to write music, to perform, to make a film, to design or paint or even create a theme park attraction requires you be in touch with a pretty special place inside you. You've got to open up your heart and reach into your soul and give it your all, right? And that requires empathy. Empathy with what it means to be a human in order to create work that touches your audience. It means you're open to beauty, to know what it is to love and to feel pain and to respect and to be open to the people and the world around you, because the world is your inspiration. To create, you need to be vulnerable and be empathetic. But to keep advancing in a career, well, that assumes that money and business matters come into play. And unless you're independently wealthy, at some point, you will be trusted to create a work of art for somebody else, funded by somebody else. You'll be creating with what we in the biz call OPM, other people's money. So no matter if that project is a big one or a small one, to be trusted to create something for someone else represents an act of faith in you. And this, I believe, is a sacred trust. To do well, you will need to listen and to respond to the needs and aspirations of the project and find a professional way to bring your own value to it. You'll need to have a certain amount of armor in place so you don't take every criticism of your work product personally. And remember that no matter how deep you had to dig to create it, your work is not you. And that some things, like how much money someone's willing to pay you, are just business. And at the same time, you have to keep that vulnerability. to push yourself to artistic excellence and creativity in order to deliver on the dreams of the individuals who have put so much trust in your ability to do just that. This is the delicate balance between vulnerability and armor, and it's been at the heart of my journey. And my experience is unique, and yours will be unique, and my story no more enlightening than your story will be. But I will share some of the key chapters with you, the push and the pull between my instinct to be creative and the road to building a career while striving to keep that balance. So it starts with college. And as incredulous as it seemed to a girl who used to sit in the back seat of every algebra class because she found it so incomprehensible and cry, I found myself in college in the pre-med program at UC San Diego. And that wasn't exactly a choice. It was the result of a protracted battle with my powerful, beautiful Sicilian father, who was not convinced that college education in the arts was practical necessity at all, and definitely not for a girl. Look, my father grew up in Sicily in the 1920s. I grew up in California in the 1960s. We weren't only from different eras, we were from different cultures, and I think maybe different planets. So we fought about this constantly through high school, and I exhausted my poor mother, who tried to keep it civil. And one day, in one of those battles, my dad let it slip that maybe if I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, that might make sense. So, I changed my strategy, and digging deep into my natural acting ability, I declared my intent to become a famous woman doctor. And so it worked. I worked on my grades, and after I got into the pre-med program at UC San Diego. But after a few moments in San Diego, I found myself in 1974 and steeped in a great counterculture among all kinds of artists, and I quickly started to merge back into that world. And more classes started appearing, like documentary filmmaking and acting and music appreciation, and by the third quarter I had quite a few of those racked up with A's, and organic chemistry C, calculus C, and that was it. Game over, end of college, fully funded college career, and I had to quit school and get to work. So, okay, what happens when you're thrown a curveball like that after the dust settles? What do you do when a lack of funds or family disapproval gets between you and your dream? You just get to work. You take every job you can to make the rent, to keep your 10-year-old Volkswagen running another 10 years. And I got jobs. I got mostly manual work at first. I washed buckets, coiled audio cable, loaded trucks, helped iron costumes, anything to stay close to theater. But I was there 100% and worked hard, acted grateful for the paying gig, even if it didn't pay anything. But in retrospect, what I was doing was practicing at being a professional. I was building a reputation around my character, getting known for my willingness to work hard, for being honest and having integrity. So along this crazy road to becoming a professional in the arts, you may do many, many things. But if you're not known as a person with integrity, someone who can be counted on, the road ahead will be much tougher. Being great at what you do might be enough, but being great at what you do and being a great person to work with, that's a slam dunk. So my first break, after about a year of working around town, I finally worked full-time in theater. Through a grants program, I get a job at the newly formed San Diego Repertory Theater. And there I was exposed to brilliant professional actors, designers, directors. I did everything there. I was a sponge. I took it all in. And I was actually getting paid for the first time to do what I dreamed of. And while working for the Rep, I continued to take college classes, and I made a little extra money freelancing around town as a lighting designer. I played piano in a restaurant for ballet classes and for a few plays. But I was finally on a road that looked much more pointed at a life in theater than, say, medical school. And Dad started to soften his stance. I think maybe he respected that I was so passionate and I kept at something that I loved. And eventually he came back around and I got my graduate degree from Cal State Long Beach. It took me about 8 years to get there, but through all those detours. So then, freelance after school, very quickly. Let me take you through a few moves post-college. I'm in my late 20s now. I plunge myself into LA theater and dance. I get a job on a stage crew for the Summer Dance Festival, which results in my designing lighting for several dance companies. And quickly connect to a lot of regional arts groups. I get the opportunity to tour all around the country, to go on tour in Europe and Asia. I work in theaters, large and small, and I support myself this way modestly, but then I discover I can paint on film sets and make more money in a day than I can in a month doing lighting. And so I switch. The VW bug is on its last leg, and rent in LA is steep, and I need to make some dough. So I make a right turn. I find I'm not that bad at scenic painting, and so I get paid paying gigs, painting backdrops, and this leads me into the film and television industry. And I work on a lot of small independent movies in LA, and I have to say truly horrible movies. Really horrible movies. And someday we'll have the truly horrible movie film festival, and we can watch them all with a bucket of popcorn and a keg of beer so I can drown my embarrassment. But it does lead to something. I eventually get hired full-time at a growing shop that builds sets for film and television, and after a couple years, I wind up managing the art department and managing that shop, and I worked there for 15 years. And that's where I learned a lot about business. This company grows from 20 to 250 people, and at 30 years old, I step up as the vice president, and out I go, managing lots of people, estimating, negotiating contracts. I learned about workman's comp and labor laws and tax laws. I learned to speak a whole new language called accountant, called lawyer. And I did it by reading a lot of books and at night on business and leadership. I took some workshops and eventually we built a really successful shop with lots of great people and great projects, including Dean Michael Kelly. But still hungry for design, I eventually built a design department there. And as the company grows, I find myself managing people who get to do cool stuff, but I never get to do the cool stuff. So too many degrees of separation, completely out of balance. So I decide it's time to start my own company. So after 15 years of running a scenery business, I start a company called Seruto and Company. And the idea is that I keep it small at its core and stay closer to the creative work and align with independent contractors, designers, artists, and smaller firms, and all together we'll tackle big projects. And why would I do that? I mean, of all the things in a career in the arts, starting up your own business is probably the riskiest. And the fear instinct is high here, and it should be high. But I did it because of the possibility of controlling my own destiny, shaping my own path, and building a community of professionals around a common goal. Win or lose, it would be under my own volition, consequences of my own decision-making, and I could hopefully steer myself back into design. And with all the work I had done before, pretty quickly we had clients and contracts and focused on designing and producing exhibitions. And you heard of some of the things we did, so I won't repeat them. But this kind of work is incredibly rewarding. It exposes you to people who think differently, to experts in all kinds of fields, to a cultural depth of understanding that you wouldn't in just a casual acquaintance. It's a very, very rich line of work. We loved bridging the world of educational institution and theater. People came to us because we were storytellers, and we could use that skill set to bring a unique approach to the exhibition market. So with just a few key staff and a sharp-witted business partner, we're small but mighty, and we're profitable enough to keep a small business ahead. And we were celebrating in 10 years in business when a new opportunity arises for me personally to work on an international project of tremendous scale for Walt Disney Imagineering. And the opportunity comes from a director of the project, an individual I have deep respect and admiration for, Bob Weiss. And Bob was a client of ours at Seruto, and we did several projects as his producers, and this grew into a terrific collaboration. So the Shanghai Disney Resort was a huge, huge leap for me in so many ways. I had not worked in the theme park industry since I started my company, and never at this scale. And at first I treaded lightly. I started consulting and debated a bigger role, knowing it would mean living away from home for long periods of time, 2 years actually, that it would necessitate I leave the company I had built and was so proud of. And I never planned for this, nor expected that this would be my next adventure, yet here it was. And so I weighed all the pluses and minuses, and I took the plunge, and at that moment of realization, when I joined this team as a producer, was like really any other moment in my life. I felt like Indiana Jones, about to take that step across that huge canyon, and I just had to trust the bridge would appear before me as I took each step. And it did. And it did because I was ready. Because everything I had done to this point, as haphazard as it may seem, added up to something and helped me navigate this new world successfully. And if the balancing act between creativity and business is a challenge in your early career, it's good to have that figured out so that when you hit the high-stakes game like this, a large-scale international project where the challenges on both sides of the equation are enormous, that you're ready. But also know that the breadth of talent on a project of this scale is astounding. I mean, what you saw was the work of thousands of people. And when you realize you're in the midst of greatness like this, supported by a large organization like Imagineering, with all kinds of brilliant people, fear starts to subside, and it's overtaken by tremendous excitement. So this opportunity to work on this project with an international team opens up your thinking about who you are and how you fit in the world in a way I'm really still searching to describe. I hope that you never shy away from an opportunity like that. So in conclusion, as you work in a career in the arts, you will accumulate a lot of lessons along the way. As a creative person, you'll work in lots of different situations with many people. You will learn from them, they will learn from you. You will find that as an artist, you have a unique way of seeing and being and feeling, and there's high value in it, so you must hold on to it and nurture it and be true to yourself. You will find that the business world is navigable and that your creativity is a huge asset here as well. You'll learn to trust your instincts and be strategic about how you perform professional work, and that fear is just a four-letter word that can be written on a piece of paper and tossed over your shoulder. Know that you are special, but also be humble. The more you open yourself up to the greatness of others, to what the world has to teach you, the richer life will be. In the process of listening and accepting and trying different ways of working and seeing the world, you change, your eyes open. The more you challenge the limits of your own preconceptions, the limits of your own knowledge, culture, and experience, the richer creative work will be. Balancing a career in the arts is a lifelong journey. It's a journey in understanding humanity and navigating the complexities of the world. Embrace it, its ambiguities and its complexities. It is life at the fullest. Thank you.